Welcome back guys to another video. In this video, we are going to be revealing the fixtures of the country racer group stage. 36 erasers left, let's go. Content overview, oh no, why is it so small? So basically, first part, Group A fixtures plus dates. Second part is Group B, third Group C, and fourth Group D. Yeah, that's basically it. Okay, I know it looks like a lot of words, but if you want to read, pause it to read. If not, just listen to me, alright? Match week 1, Finland takes on Brazil for the first match and the opening match. They're followed by Argentina versus Norway, Myanmar versus Korea, and Iceland versus Burkina Faso. So because we have 9 teams in each group, right? So every match week, 1 eraser will not take part. So in this case, it would be like, I don't know. I can't think. I think it's India, if I'm not wrong. Anyways, let's continue. Match week 2, Brazil takes on Iceland, Norway, Finland, Korea, Argentina, and Iceland, Myanmar. I think I should say the verses to avoid confusion. Match week 3, Finland v Argentina, India v Brazil, Myanmar v Norway, and Burkina Faso versus Korea. Match week 4, Argentina v Iceland, Burkina Faso versus Finland, Norway v India, and Brazil v Myanmar. In match week 5, Finland v India, Korea v Iceland, Norway v Brazil, Burkina Faso v Argentina. Match week 6, Argentina v Myanmar, Finland v Korea, Brazil v Burkina Faso, India v Iceland. Match week 7, Myanmar v Finland, Korea v Brazil, Iceland v Norway, and Burkina Faso versus India. Match week 8, Finland versus Iceland, India versus Argentina. Oh, yeah, okay, I was explaining that. I couldn't finish, but you all get the point. Group B, match week 1 has Cuba taking on Soviet Union, followed by Pakistan v Malaysia, Singapore v Mauritius, and Turkey v Portugal. Match week 2 has Sweden v Singapore, Portugal v Cuba, Malaysia v Turkey, Mauritius v Pakistan. Match week 3 has Mauritius v Sweden, Turkey v Soviet Union, Singapore v Malaysia, Pakistan v Portugal. Match week 4, Cuba v Mauritius, Sweden v Turkey, Soviet Union v Pakistan, and Portugal v Singapore. Match week 5, it's Sweden v Portugal, Turkey v Singapore, Malaysia v Soviet Union, and Pakistan v Cuba. Match week 6 sees Cuba v Singapore, Pakistan v Sweden, Malaysia v Portugal, and Soviet Union v Mauritius. In match week 7, it's Sweden v Cuba, Portugal v Soviet Union, Mauritius v Malaysia, and Pakistan v Turkey. Match week 8, Soviet Union versus Singapore, Malaysia versus Sweden, Turkey versus Cuba, and Portugal versus Mauritius. Match week 9, Sweden versus Soviet Union, Cuba versus Malaysia, Mauritius versus Turkey, and Pakistan versus Portugal. And yeah, at the bottom there, I forgot to say, there's the dates that these will happen. So for match week 1 to 4 of Group B, it's going to happen on 17 March 2026. And for match week 5 to 9, yeah, you'll just read that. Group C, match week 1 sees Great Britain taking on Jordan, followed by Vietnam v South Africa, Italy versus China, and Brunei versus Ireland. Match week 2, South Africa versus Jordan, China versus Vietnam, Brunei versus Hungary, Great Britain versus Ireland. Match week 3, Hungary versus Great Britain, Ireland versus Italy, Vietnam versus Brunei, and Jordan versus China. Match week 4, China versus Brunei, South Africa versus Italy, Ireland versus Hungary, and Jordan versus Vietnam. In match week 5, China versus Ireland, Great Britain versus South Africa, Italy versus Vietnam, and Jordan versus Hungary. Match week 6, Brunei versus Jordan, Italy versus Great Britain, Hungary versus China, and South Africa versus Ireland. In match week 7, China versus Great Britain, Vietnam v Ireland, Italy v Brunei, and Hungary v South Africa. In match week 8, South Africa v Brunei, Hungary v Italy, Ireland v Jordan, Vietnam v Great Britain. And the final match week of Group C, China v South Africa, Great Britain v Brunei, Jordan v Italy, and Hungary v Vietnam. So match week 1 to 4 will be taking place on 1 April 2026, as well match week 5 to 9 will take place on 3rd April 2026. And by the way, all teams face each other at least once. However, the home and away was not decided by me, but instead it was decided on a wheel. So it may be unfair. Group D sees match week 1, Switzerland v Laos, Germany v Netherlands, Ghana v Somalia, and France v Thailand. Metric 2, Germany versus Ghana. Oops, I think that's a typo. Netherlands versus Switzerland, France v Somalia, Colombia v Thailand. Metric 3, Ghana versus Switzerland, Netherlands versus Somalia, Laos versus Thailand, and Colombia versus France. Metric 4, Ghana versus France, Somalia versus Thailand, Switzerland versus Germany, Colombia versus Laos. And in metric 5, Ghana versus Laos, Germany versus Somalia, Switzerland versus Thailand, Netherlands versus Colombia. In metric 6, Netherlands v Ghana. I keep having typo, bro. Somalia v Switzerland, Laos versus France, Colombia versus Germany. In metric 7, Laos takes on Germany, Thailand takes on Ghana, Colombia takes on Switzerland, and France takes on Netherlands. In metric 8, Laos v Netherlands, Switzerland v France, Somalia v Colombia, and Thailand v Germany. In metric 9, Thailand versus Netherlands, Somalia versus Laos, Ghana versus Colombia, and France versus Germany as the final match of the group stage. Metric 1 to 4 takes place on 17 April 2026, while metric 5 to 9 will take place in 19 April 2026. Oh, and I forgot to mention, in the case of an unlikely tie, stay to the end of the video and find out what happens. Group stage final result date, 25 April 2026. Okay, so if in case there's a tie, I think I'll probably put it in alphabetical order or anything. I'll inform you when I show you the results. That's all for this video. Please continue supporting your favorite team here, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.